years. On the air since 1951. This is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
Hey, that's us, WDXE. And speaking of legends, John Kelly is in here, buddy. How are you?
I am great, sir.
Hey, man, thank you so much for coming in and agreeing to come in to be with me today. It is Friends and Neighbors with yours truly and my good friend John Kelly, who I have known since high school. We got to know each other way back when, didn't we, bud?
We did, man.
We did. And life has rolled on. That's been a few years ago.
It's flying by, too.
And John Kelly, of course, most of you know, is John Kelly of the Kellys. And the Kellys started prior to you, actually.
Sure, 1959.
1959. And we want to get to all that, but you have carried on the tradition and still highly active in quartet gospel music. And, of course, the Vaughn music singing that we have here every year and all that kind of stuff. You guys have been super active and super involved in that. But I want to dive deep with you, old buddy.
Okay.
You and I go back a ways, and I was privileged to be a part of the Kellys for a little while in my life, as you remember. And I never was asked to be a part of the Kellys. I just joined.
Well, was glad to have
Do you remember that?
I remember.
Do you remember that? Your daddy used to make so much fun of that because he was introducing the group once.
Yeah.
And I forget where we were. We were at some church singing somewhere. And he looked around, and there I was playing, and he didn't even know I was there till he was introducing he didn't even know who I was. And he had a big time with it.
Yeah, I remember he turned around and just looked at you and said, "Who is this?" Hey, it's good, though.
So it was all good.
Yes, sir.
It was all good. We had a good time. But you know, one of the things that I've done with the guests we've had here is try to get, you know, some of their real family history. And, of course, you grew up in what we knew as Kelly Holler. Is it still called Kelly Holler?
It's still down there.
Still called?
Yeah, there's just everybody that lives down there besides my brother owns a house up above Mom and Dad's house, and there's a family there, but everybody else down through there is Kelly's.
Yeah,
it is.
It's Kelly Holler down through there, and that's where we have practiced years ago with JP's basement down there and all that kind of stuff. But the Kelly's family, your grandfather, I did not know. Now I remember your grandmother. I remember Mama Kelly.
Right.
But now what was your grandfather's name?
John M.
John M. So John M. Now, was he and your grandmother both natives of Lawrence County, or?
Yes, he grew up down there.
Did he?
Yeah, he died in 1962. I didn't know him. Now my brother talks. You know, Gary's 8 years older than me, but Gary always talks, and Gary does the same thing today. He said my grandfather, no matter where he went, he took Gary with him, and Gary just remembers all the years of.
Yeah.
You know, back then.
And how is Gary, by the way? I hadn't seen him.
He's good. He's good. He's still working. He's 71.
71.
Yeah.
How about that?
And he's still working.
He was always great to be around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's full of life.
Full of life. That's right. And so your grandfather, and of course, you said Gary with him all. So now I'm sure they were just farming people.
All they did was farm.
Yeah.
And, and my grandmother, that's how, you know, she just... She played the piano. You know, she played the piano there at Mount Zion Methodist Church for 80-something years.
80-something years. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, she died at she was 94, I believe, when she passed. And so she played the piano there all those years. And
yeah, she was still quite active when I got to know you guys in the, what was it, the late 70s.
Late 70s, yeah.
Late 70s, something like that. She was still quite active and would sometimes go on the trips and all that kind of stuff. Now, how did the Kellys actually, did it start with her and playing the piano?
Yep. She would always make Dad and Jim and their daddy around the piano every night after they eat supper. Yeah. Daddy said they sung every day. No matter how tired they were, they'd sing at least one song after they had supper.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had a piano.
They did have a piano. Yeah. I remember, you know, she gave piano lessons for years.
Well, that's
and
what I
years.
was going to say. I think I remember. I remember now that I think about it that she gave piano lessons.
For sit there.
Really?
Yep. Yep. She begged me to learn, and I, you know, back then I didn't care nothing about that. But today I would have given anything if I'd listened to play.
I know what you mean. Yeah, that would have been. Yeah. But hindsight's 2020.
Oh yeah, exactly.
All that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, so what was life like in Kelly Holler And of course, your perspective is from the time you were born. But if you have some shared memories from some of your family, some stories maybe that you might know from your family in the past, your grandfather, grandmother, did they have that farm down there then? Or?
Oh yeah, they farmed a lot of land then. Gary can even tell you back when he used to walk behind the mules. Now I don't remember none of that. I never did do none of that. But
Right.
Gary can tell you back when he drove the tractor. They farmed. They had a lot of cattle.
Now it's Knob Creek that runs down through
Exactly.
there.
Yep,
So,
yep.
so y'all are the hollow there along Knob Creek.
Yep.
And what's the name of that road?
See, it used to be when I was down there, and up until I'm just guessing 30 years ago, that road that we lived on was called Knob Creek.
Knob Creek, that's right.
But they changed it and named it Hughes Road, and then moved Knob Creek up to the next road if you're going north off of.
Okay.
But they moved it to Hughes Road, and I don't know what date they did that. I just know some 30 years ago they changed it to Hughes Road.
Wow.
But it is Knob Creek. It runs right down through the farm, and Gary still owns the farm down there, and he has a lot of cattle too.
Well, just thinking about it, you've got, in the rural part of Lawrence County, in that era, your grandfather and your grandmother, but she played the piano, had the piano, and then and sing songs. At what point did they decide, or she decided, or somebody decided
Right.
to actually become like quartet singing or something like that? Because that's kind of unusual. You're down in a rural part of Lawrence County, not connected to the world at large.
Right. Yeah.
And going to church, obviously, down there, and church singing. But what led to actually the Kelly group?
Well, I don't know if you remember Lerman Clayton. Lerman, he always says he's the one that started the Kellys. Now, when Mom and Dad married and Jim and Minnie Paul married, that's when it really started that Mama would play the piano, because my grandfather passed. He was sick in those days, but I can remember being 4 or maybe 5 years old at Lerman Clayton, all those years prior to that, would have Mom and Dad and Jim, Minnie Paul, and Mama.
Now, who are you saying, Clayton?
Yeah, Lerman Clayton. Yeah.
Lerman Clayton.
Lerman Clayton.
Okay.
He would have them up to his house and sing on a Saturday night or a Friday night.
Okay.
And they would go up there and sing. Well, then Lerman would invite people to come and listen to him. So they did that for years, and I can remember being little and all the kids playing and Mom
Right.
and Dad and them being there singing. There'd be people there, and that's how it started. But that, and then one night there was a gentleman from Franklin. They'd invited them down, and so he invited Mom and Dad and the group to come to his church and sing.
Oh, okay.
And that's how it really started. So Dad said they went to that church in Franklin, and he said that night 7 to 8 churches booked them just from that one singing. So that's how we got started.
So this
right
was
there.
this was Sonny and your mom.
Yeah.
Your dad, mom,
Yeah.
and JP and Minnie Paul
And my grandmother.
and your grandmother.
Yeah.
So at the piano, and that was the group.
That was the group. And then when Gary came along, I don't remember what age Gary was when he started, but he started playing the bass guitar.
Yeah, I remember him playing.
And
the
he
bass,
played the
but
bass, yeah.
Not then, but I remember
Right.
when I came along, he was
Yeah.
playing bass some.
He played the bass, and then I joined playing a snare drum, and that's how I started. And then Jim and Minnie Paul had Tammy,
Yeah,
and then Tammy played the tambourine.
yeah.
So that's how
So this
we
was
were
a
for years.
family deal.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was the Kellys were a family, sure enough, as far as a group goes.
Yeah. I can remember Mom and Daddy telling stories how we started in a little van.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember traveling in the van, and then we got a PA set from Sears, and I remember it.
Yeah.
It was diamond pleated, sparkly blue, and Daddy said they give $45 for the PA.
Really.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Of course, now they worked, had other jobs, had farming, did all the stuff that they did.
Yeah.
What was life like for young John Kelly? And I'm talking about young John Kelly. What was life like in Kelly Holler?
Well, Gary and Ricky Blackwell, the Blackwells lived down behind Mom and Dad in a log cabin,
Okay.
and they had goats. And I was little. And they had them goats trained to pull the wagon. And they would make me ride in that wagon. Mom said I cried all the time, but they'd make me ride in that wagon. I can remember them stinking goat, them goats stink.
You didn't like riding in the wagon?
No.
Most kids would have loved riding in the wagon. How come you didn't?
I don't have a clue. Mom said I cried the whole time.
You didn't like it?
No. But he still laughs about how he made me do that when I was little.
Gosh.
Yeah. He'll bring that up every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
But it was great. It was good.
That's what big brothers must be for, is to
Yeah.
torment their little brothers, I guess.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
But for me, when I was young, in the 70s, Mom and Daddy and Jim and Minnie Paul did a lot of revivals. I've got some schedules where they would sing 18 to 20 times a month.
Really?
Yeah, just they do revivals everywhere. So I was a motorcycle guy. I love motorcycles, so that was me. I'd ride motorcycles and I'd go and play and sing, and that's what we did. I mean, we just sung all the time.
And got the farming in between.
Farming in between. Then, Daddy went to work at Murray and all that stuff. And
Yeah,
all
when
those
did,
years.
when did he go to work at Murray? You may not know the year.
No, I don't know. I can remember he used to before, right when I was born. Mama said that he drove. He worked at Murray at night and drove a log truck for Stick Beckman that used to have the sawmill right across from David Crockett Park.
Yeah.
Because I remember when it was there, even across the road from David Crockett Park was the cotton gin. So I can remember him doing that back in those days. But it was my early years.
I was going to say I don't remember the cotton gin being there.
Yep.
But I'm sure.
Well, you
you're
ain't
right.
as old as me.
Well, not quite. I'm pretty close. Pretty doggone close. Oh my gosh. Well, so you like motorcycles?
Yeah.
Tell me about your motorcycle life. Now I knew that. I remember you having motorcycles, but did you ride just country, or did you ride competition?
No, I did some competition stuff.
I didn't know that so
Yeah.
much. So how'd you do that?
One of my favorite stories, and my mama she used to have a fit. Wheelies, that's all I wanted to do. But I can remember and I've tried to find those when Mom and Dad passed. Mama had a VHS camera.
Oh, okay.
And I can remember there's a ditch there in front of the house, and then it goes up into a big bean field. Well, Gary used to sit in the road with the video camera, and I would come down the road, and then he'd lay down and video me jumping him up into the bean field. So I was hoping I would find those, because I remember we watched them.
Oh my gosh.
30, 40 years ago, and I did get the VHS and all that stuff, but I never found it yet. But we used to have a ball.
Oh yeah, we've got some old VHS tapes that we need to get converted before something does happen to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they don't last forever, and or they get lost or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some good memories, man.
Yeah.
So where did you ride competition? Did you go?
Oh yeah, I've been to Kentucky and raced, and then I had a wreck and broke my collarbone after I had children, and laid up for about 6 weeks.
Well, other than motorcycle racing, did you play sports in high school?
No, I made the basketball team when I was a freshman, but I quit.
Did you?
Yeah.
Loretta High School?
Loretta High School.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
You didn't go to Lawrence County because we were rivals with Loretta, and I was in Lawrence County, all that kind of stuff. So I remember, when I first began to kind of get exposed to trying to play music, and do you remember the Porters had a group?
Yes.
You remember the Porters?
I do.
Clyde Porter
Yeah.
and them had a group, and that's the first folks that I played with, and there might have been an occasion or two where we were playing at the same place.
Yeah.
And I remember watching you play the drums.
Yeah.
And I was always envious of your drum playing. You're pretty good.
Well, I enjoyed it.
You were.
Yeah. When I was young, I had some great opportunities, but Dad and Mom wanted me to finish school. One of my favorite things from while I was playing drums was we opened up right after Elvis died. We opened up for J.D. Sumner and the Stamps that backed up Elvis.
Yep.
And we opened up for them, and I noticed their band was standing in the sides watching. And, I was nervous anyway. I was 16 years old. And so when we got through and finished up, they was fixing to call on, the Stamps, and J.D. walked over to me and in that deep voice and said, "Hey, we don't have a drummer. Would you want to fill in?" And so I filled in with them. And then afterwards, he took me and Dad out to his bus and offered me a job.
Really?
Yeah, and
Well, now, when was that? Let me say this because not that that I want it to be about just my time with you guys, but at one point when I was with y'all, we were with J.D. Sumner and the Stamps. Was that the same time? Or is there a different time?
Well, now we opened up for them a couple of times, like we did the Oak Ridge Boys. We got to do that too.
Yeah.
But this was in 1976 at Columbia, at one of the auditoriums up there is where I had that opportunity.
Well, I remember, and I guess it was 76. It might have been the same.
It might have been the same
part
night.
because we got to go on their bus.
Yeah.
We did, and I got to meet J.D. Sumner. I was going to mention that at some point in this interview because I remember that. That was a big deal for me. It was like J.D. Sumner and the Stamps. We're like, holy cow!
Yeah. I remember that night he was singing. He hit a low note because he had his monitor. He had his monitor in the front chair, and he hit a low note. And it fell out on the floor.
Well, there wasn't anybody with a voice like him except him.
That's exactly.
He was
right.
He was the it as far as that goes. I guess the closest there would be Oak Ridge Boys, Richard. Sturbin.
Yeah.
And of course he has an incredible voice as well.
Yeah.
But the Kellys were enjoying life and singing, and it was before we come to the 70s. There was a long period of time there that was just JP and Minnie Paul and Sonny and Ruth and you guys, the boys, the children, and y'all played a lot. Y'all went all over, didn't you?
Yeah, I remember the last night my grandmother, when she said she was quitting, we were coming out of Illinois, and she they had her recliner on the bus, and she said, "This is my last trip." She said, "I'm just I just can't do it." And she was I don't know the age, but I won't say she was in her early 70s.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how old she was, but I know she was older, and she just said, "Hey." And that's it might have been a little bit later than that because Gary started playing the piano then. Then that's when we picked up like Barry Springer and those to start playing there. Now, was you there when Barry was there?
Yeah, see, I played with Barry.
Okay.
And William Allred was playing bass. Barry was playing the guitar,
organ,
the piano or organ.
Okay.
And I came on board and started playing guitar some. Which was William's fault.
Because you come with him, didn't you?
I came with him,
yeah.
and he said, "Hey, bring your guitar and you just play with us." And that's how that whole scene unfolded. And then I just stuck, evidently.
Yeah.
Ended up I remember getting my first electric guitar to play with you guys because I didn't have one at that point. I was playing an acoustic. And I got an old, at that time I had worked some for Dickie Mayberry at Mayberry's Music Shop. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
And he had an old Maserite electric guitar that I got, and that was the first one that I played with you guys. And I mentioning that same, I believe, singing with J.D. Sumner and the Stamps, there was another group there too that played with them besides us, was there not?
I don't remember. Remember.
I may be getting a couple of different ones mixed up, but one of the times we played with somebody, I don't know if it was, didn't we play with the Hensons one time?
Yeah, we played with the Hensons in Florence.
We played with the Hensons in Florence, and you remember when they introduced the Kellys when I was playing, I was the first one to play. I had the opening lick was mine.
Yeah.
And so and I had to be on cue. So it was a little slide and play, and I'm playing. And one of those guys from one of the other groups had tuned my guitar. And I don't know if he did it as a joke or what, but he mistuned it badly. And we hit the awfulest lick when everybody else came in. It was terrible, and your dad turned around and looked at me, and he could have killed me. But I don't remember. It wasn't my fault. I was like looking at my guitar, like, what in the world happened? It was a bad deal.
Yeah, Dad was one of those. He was.
He didn't like no fooling around much.
No, he was a perfection.
Yeah.
Up until he passed, or got out of the group. Not until he passed, but when he got out of the group, that's when I stopped rehearsing because we would rehearse. The band would rehearse a night. The singers would rehearse. Well, the band then had to rehearse twice.
Yeah.
And I can remember driving to Columbia and practicing up there with the guys that was up there. He just
Jimmy
wanted to
Wales.
practice. Yeah, Jimmy Wales.
Yeah. See, we used to go up there. We rode up there together. We rode up to Jimmy Wales, and he played the steel guitar. And we had a pretty good little band there for a while.
Oh yeah, man.
And it wasn't bad at all for us, for teenage boys. It was a fun time.
Yeah, I remember loading up all the drums and everything, and we'd haul them things up there to Jimmy Wells' house and rehearse.
Yep. And what become of Jimmy Wells? Have you kept up with him much?
No. Somebody told me about a year ago that they had talked to him. I haven't. Some of those guys. I know Jimmy left us and went and started playing for Hank Snow.
Yeah,
on the Opry. Because he was a great player.
Yeah, he was. He could play guitar. He played steel, and he could switch back and forth. He was quite good.
Yeah.
And took it seriously. We were just, me anyway. I was a teenage boy just having fun.
Yeah.
That kind of deal. But he took it quite serious.
Yeah.
I was going to mention and kind of focus a little bit on your dad. A great guy, a great character. A lot of folks knew Sonny, and of course JP.
Yeah.
And JP had a car lot here in town.
Yep.
He's the only one
He's the only one ever I knew had a car that had velvet on the car. You remember that orange velvet that he put at the fair for a few years?
The orange velvet car. I do remember.
Yeah. I tell people about that, and they say, ain't no way. I said, I wish I had pictures, because I think Minnie Paul has a picture of that car hanging on the wall at her house.
Probably so. Yeah, probably so.
But Jim, he got busy at the car lot and in his voice to the trailer trucks. He got into the trailer truck business during that time, and it just took a lot of him doing that.
They were trucking and had the car business when I was with you guys. A lot of times that was where we would meet, is at the car lot.
Where Kroger is.
And jump on the bus and take off right there.
Yeah.
And so everybody leave their vehicles on the car lot and all that kind of stuff. So that's where we would all hook up. And he had trucks going on, and I think Gary probably drove trucks some.
Yeah, Gary did.
Best I remember.
Yeah.
But JP was a super guy.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed being him. What was fun, too, is when we'd sing on the bus.
Yeah, I remember you played. Yeah,
you remember
played.
us?
Yeah.
You remember us singing on the bus?
Yeah.
Riding and singing on the bus. It was good.
Well, that bus would be full of people.
Yeah.
They just invite people to go. A lot of people ask me now, do you have anybody on the bus? Nah, we just have us 4 singers. That's it. But used to, man, we'd carry a bus load.
When was the first bus?
We had a van in the 70s, and then we had 2 school buses. And then when we bought I remember we bought what I want to call a snub nose bus with no, from Mount Pleasant, the transit line in Mount Pleasant. We bought that. Man, I thought, we have hit the big time with this flat nose bus,
Yeah.
So we had that bus for a while, and then we bought a 4104, a Greyhound 4104, and then we had 2 Eagles. I'm sorry, 3. We had 3 Eagles.
Yeah.
And then we had the last 2, the 2 Prevosts that we got now.
I think an Eagle is what you guys were.
The white one with purple.
We were still in the Eagle when I was privileged to be a part of it and all that kind of stuff. I remember the Eagle.
I remember we took off that bus. It was white, had purple stripes on it.
Yeah.
And I've got pictures of it. And me and Daddy and Gary took the wheels off and put white walls on it, taped white walls, and we painted white wall tires.
Really?
Yes. Because white walls back then was a big thing.
Yeah, it was a big thing.
So we had them on that bus. I've even got a picture.
Really?
With those white walls on that bus.
You probably got lots of pictures. Well,
yeah.
I tell you what else I remember about JP. He had an airplane.
He did.
Because I grew up at the airport.
Yeah.
And I remember that, and his was unique in that he had an interior on that airplane that was different than anybody else. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember because I helped him. We took the wings off of it out at the airport out here.
Yeah.
And we hauled the body of the plane on his trailer trucks, a flatbed, down to his house, and he put it in the basement and had the interior done.
Yeah, he had that thing upholstered like nothing else.
Yeah.
It was cushioned and slick, and of course it was 70s vintage.
Yeah.
That kind of deal.
Yeah.
Very plush. It was almost like it had shag carpet in the.
He loved flying. He flew for a company out of New York for years, and.
Really, I didn't know that
Yeah,
about him. So,
yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Well, he took pictures. Back years ago, pictures were big things.
That's right.
So,
the aerial pictures.
But we would go up, and me and him, and he loved to do tricks and stuff. Well, we'd go down to Mom and Daddy's. We'd throw toilet paper out the window in Mom and Daddy's yard and fly underneath the power lines and all that stuff. And then when he had to have a colostomy, then he couldn't have his license. So that's when he got the ultralights.
Oh, okay.
So he had the ultralights. You know, the doctor that,
I don't think I knew about him having ultralights.
Yeah, down at his house. And then that's where that doctor got killed down there while they was flying ultralights.
Oh, me.
Some years back.
Yeah, I remember that, but I didn't realize it was, I didn't know JP was involved in that or riding in the air those ultralights.
Yeah, yeah.
That was after my time with the Kellys.
His little hangar's still down there.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm, where he kept it at. Yeah.
That's cool. Down in Kelly Holler.
Down in the farm. Yeah. Yep.
Now, does the family still own the farm down there? Still have property down there and all that?
Yep. My brother, I think he has a little bit over 100 acres.
Yeah.
And Jim and or Minnie Paul still own down there all the bottom land, and they some of it's in corn and stuff. And then my brother does a lot of hay, and then he's got his cattle down there. He has around 70 to 80 head of cattle down there.
Oh, good cow.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah, and he loves that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. I like messing with the cows a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
So
always fun.
him and Minnie Paul still own the farm down there.
Well, John, you began to grow up and become an adult, and life began to change for just John Kelly. And you met somebody special.
Sweet Johnny.
Sweet Johnny. Everybody and a lot of people know that Johnny Kelly at Lawrenceburg Federal is your Johnny.
That's right.
And you're her John.
Yeah.
How about that?
I love that woman.
Yes, you do. I know you do. She's a sweet lady and always been pleasant to be around and great folks. How many children?
2. I got 2 girls.
2 girls. Grandchildren?
Yes, I have 3. And that's what I do now since I retired. They talked me into retiring, so I keep the youngest one, which we call is the miracle baby that we think saved Jenna's life.
Yeah.
And so I keep him 3 days a week. He's 18 months, and so yes, that's what I do now.
I didn't mention earlier, but we will take your phone calls if you got something you want to talk to John or share with John. The phone number here is 766-9393. And some of you may have some memories of the Kellys or with John or whatever. But now we're jumping ahead a little bit because your working career, there's the singing, which is you've kept up and stayed with.
Yep.
But you had to have a job where along the
Yep.
ways. How did John start out?
Well, when I graduated, during my early years when I was in the 8th grade, I went to work for Jerry Cruz.
Okay.
Jerry Cruz's farm, and he was a big farmer, and I worked for him until I graduated high school. Well, my sister-in-law, Judy, worked at the casket factory in Loretta. And so when I graduated...
I remember Judy.
Yeah. And so I graduated, and she asked me did I want to go to work there, and I didn't have no job. I was just doing the farming, and it was, late at night, Saturdays and stuff when I wasn't singing and stuff. So I went to work there and worked there 2.5 years. And then I went to Modine. And so I worked at Modine for 42 years.
Wow.
And, so Modine was great for me and blessed my family. And so I worked there 42 years. So that's the only places I've worked.
Yeah, well, well, that was great.
Yeah.
That was a good opportunity there,
Yes.
and you made your career there at Modine.
Yeah.
I knew you worked there, but didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, I was there. I went there when I was 21.
21 years old,
Mm-hmm. And
kind of grew up with the plant then.
I did. Because when I went to work, there was about 40 of us there, and there are over 700 now.
Yeah, I know. It's really been a big part of the community here.
Yeah.
So you've had a career there, and of course, Johnny. Now, when did you and Johnny meet, and how'd that happen?
I met Johnny. She was Miss David Crockett.
Oh yeah.
And so she won Miss David Crockett.
Now, for those who don't know, tell us, and I do, but for those who don't know, where did she come from? Who was her mom and dad?
John and Barbara Pilla.
Yeah.
John Pilla he worked for the power system.
That's right.
And coached baseball.
Yeah.
He never had a kid to play. And, he loved baseball.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he lived and breathed. He loved those kids.
Yeah, a lot of folks, a lot of young men influenced by John Pillow here,
Yep.
and of course the Lawrenceburg power system, but the baseball.
Yeah, the park. As you
Yeah.
go in the park, it's
Yeah.
John Pillow Drive.
That's right.
I remember the night they,
That's
gave
right.
that to him.
So anyway, so you and Johnny meet how?
We were singing at the David Crockett Days, and she was in the beauty contest. And so she won that, and we just kind of, we walked around, talked a little bit, and then I saw her in town one night, and you know how we used to do all we did was rode up and down the strip.
Yeah, we rode up and down the strip.
That's
what
it.
you did.
You went up to Sonic,
And back down to Jack's.
back and forth. It'd be just lined up. And
Yeah.
I saw her and a friend in town, and I had a friend, so we, pulled them over like we used to do.
Yeah.
And asked her to go riding around, and she turned me down.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Man, she turned me down.
Turn you down.
But I didn't give up.
There you go.
And so called her on the phone and asked her out and had to beg and plead, but she finally went.
Finally talked her into it.
Yeah, and
Good for you,
so I
man.
remember the first night going over there, and I remember her mom and dad were some of the best people that
Oh yeah.
blessed me all those years, loved on me, fed me, and I stayed there all the time.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing to have that kind of relationship with your
Yep.
in-laws.
I love
it. Really, really is.
I love
That's
it.
a great thing. That's a great thing. And of course, now when did you guys get married?
86.
86.
Yep.
86.
Yeah. So we've got two girls, Jenna and Jansen. Then Jansen, she works for the chamber here. Jenna works for Johnny at the bank, and then they have three boys: True, Theodore, and Isaiah. And she married Brian Sanders from Hampshire.
Okay.
So they met. I think bowling is how they met. They were bowling. I think so.
Good deal.
Yeah. So
Good deal. Good deal. So, but the Kellys, I want to get back. I want to circle back
Okay.
to the fact that the Kellys begin to age.
Yes, sir.
Sonny and JP begin to have some years, and so the Kellys had to change or dissolve, one or the other, and you stuck it out. You stuck with it. How did that transition take place? And I mean, what was there a time when it wasn't going, or did you keep it going?
No, we've always gone. What happened was when Jim passed, or when Jim quit singing.
Yeah.
When Jim quit singing, Daddy just looked at me and said, "Hey, you're gonna have to sing." And I never sang. You can ask Mom and Daddy. They always said I sat in the pew and beat on the back of the pew. I didn't do no singing.
Right.
So Daddy said, "You're gonna have to sing."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I wasn't what I wanted to do, and at that time." And he said, "But you're gonna have to." And so I stepped up, and started singing. I can remember.
Well, you can flat sing, but when you but on the beginning when I heard you were going to, I was like, well, he can't sing.
No.
I was like, he can't sing because of course I was just being Jeff Hood. But,
Yeah.
but you can sing, obviously.
Well, that happened, and I can remember rehearsing, and Daddy looked at me and he said, "You singing the wrong part." So I had trouble for a long time. Whoever was standing beside, if I started off in the lead part, whoever was standing beside of me, I'd be singing their part.
Yeah.
And which it took me for years. The lead part's that's just a good, easy part. But when you start singing other parts,
Yeah.
now, it took me years to learn to sing the baritone part, which is the hardest part to sing.
Well,
in a
that was the
quartet.
part that I ended
know.
up getting to sing,
Yeah.
which I love doing.
Yeah.
We lost. Who was the baritone
Bill
singer?
Mayberry.
Bill Mayberry.
I just saw Bill Sunday. He
Did
come out with
you?
us in Nashville.
Did you? Bill Mayberry was a good guy.
Yes, sir.
Just enjoyed being him. Of course, I was playing bass at that time, but when he left, I remember everybody was just down, and we're like, what are we gonna do? And I think I said, well, I can sing that part, and we tried it, and I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
For better or for worse, I could sing it,
Yes, sir.
and so I had a good time with that. That was fun.
Yeah, Bill Mayberry, him and his wife, Miss Pat, which Bill is, he told me Sunday's 84.
84.
But he looks like he's about 60.
Really?
He still plays golf all the time. And his sweet wife, Miss Pat, I can remember being in the 70s calling their house, and she'd always say, "Jesus loves you," Mayberry's residence.
How about that?
So about 2 years ago, I called him to let him know because he goes to the big church, Brentwood Baptist Church.
Yes.
So we started doing that church every year.
Okay.
Matter of fact, we're going to be there in November. And I called him to let him know we were going to be there. And that's the first thing when she picked up the phone. And that's still,
Yeah.
40 years 50 years, she's still saying the same thing as you answer the phone. And that boy always just blessed me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So they're still doing good.
Jesus
That's
loves
good
you.
to hear that.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. So then you began to sing. And Sonny was you were singing with Sonny?
Daddy was singing the bass part because, back then, Daddy'd sing tenor or bass, whichever ones was out.
Whatever he needed to do, he sang it.
Yeah. So in the 90s, the early 90s, I'd say 93, 92 or 93, we were singing down in Russellville, Alabama.
Yeah.
And we were singing with another group. And you know how Dad was. If he got in the spirit, he was just shouting and running up and down the aisles.
Oh, yeah.
So he had gotten the spirit, and the Lord was really moving. People were shouting, and he walked off the microphone. He was just walking around the church and, praising the Lord. Well, the group that was there was a guy by the name of Bill Lawrence.
Okay.
So Bill Lawrence just came up and got in, just started singing Daddy's part. And he's an amazing bass singer. And so he sung with us, and so that night afterwards, he told Paul, he said, if you guys ever needed a bass singer, I'd love to sing with the group.
How about that?
And so he told me and Dad, and Dad was, he said, well, we need to call him. And I said, no, that's the part you're singing. So the next morning, we were in Coleman, Alabama. Well, guess who showed up? Bill Lawrence.
Really?
So he came down, and so on the way home that day on the bus, Daddy said, John, you got to call this guy and hire him. And I said, no, Daddy, it's your part. And I said, this is your group. I'm just running it, because he turned it over to me the years back and said, I can't do it no more. You just take over. So I did. Back in the mid-'80s, I took over.
Yeah.
So he said, I'll still get up and sing a song or two the second time around. And he said, you can't, this guy's too good. You cannot, pass up on him.
Yeah.
So I did. I called Bill, and he came up and sat and talked to me and Dad. And so we hired him, and he stayed with us. I want to think right at 7 years, because I just had him back for the bond. And so he sung with us 7 years, and then he left and went to Phil Cross and Poet Voices, which is wrote many, many #1 songs for the cathedrals and, hoppers and everybody. So he left us, and so we started trying out bass singers, and we had just recorded the song One Way Trip and was fixing to send it nationwide. And so Bill told us he was quitting. So we started looking for bass singers and tried out 4 or 5. Well, we found Eric, and we really liked Eric. So I was going to call him and say, hey, we want you to come and be a part of the group. Well, that day, Bill Lawrence called me, and he said, John, have you hired a bass singer? I said, no. He said, I want to come back. And so he come back and stayed another 3 years, and then he left and went to Brian Free and Assurance.
Yeah.
And then he went to Gold City, which is the most awarded Southern gospel group. It's won more awards than anybody. Then he went to them, and he traveled them for years, and then he quit. But that's how Dad retired.
Okay.
During that time, he started going some, and then he finally his health just wouldn't let him go no more. So he just after the late 90s, he just quit going. Him and Mom and Dad would come if we were close, but that was about all. So that's when Dad's years quit, or when Dad quit.
So the current group was formed how long ago now?
As we are, 19 years. Keith,
y'all been together 19 years as you are.
As you are today, yeah.
Wow.
Paul's been here somewhere between 35 and 40 years. Eric's been here 24.
Yeah.
And so we've been together 19 years, and, we sing with all these major groups, and they're always asking me, how are you keeping a group together? Because Southern gospel groups don't stay together long. 3 or 4 years, they're changing.
Yeah.
Because you can look at the business right now, some of your top groups, they're going through changes right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not in that top groups, but my group has been together, and they're always asking me, how do you keep the group together and all that? But man, we have a ball doing this. I'm telling you, we laugh, we all just connect together, we mesh.
Yeah.
And we just, it's just it's fun for us, but it's a calling too.
Yeah.
It's a calling on our
Well,
lives.
y'all developed a family-like relationship over that length of time, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt, and enjoy the travel a little bit, enjoy seeing all the new people here and there, and enjoy being a part of something that's a little bigger than yourself.
Sure.
Mentioning that, you guys, even before your current group, but the original Kellys all the way through have always recorded.
Yeah.
They'll have albums. Then we had tapes,
Cassettes. I still got a bunch.
cassettes, albums, and then now CDs. And of course, we've gone digital world now into the web world and all that kind of stuff. But you guys have over the years. Do you have any idea how many actual recordings?
The latest recording that I have is 1966. It's a red. It's a no. It was. It has the beach and the ocean on it, and so I have that. And then I have some albums that, or I have one album that people, back in those years. I mean, to come up with $1,000 was hard.
Oh yeah.
And so I can remember where we've got one album where people. Their names are on the back of the album that gave money to record that album.
Really?
Yeah, where people would give $50, $25, $10 to help us record. So what Mom and Daddy did was they put their names on the back of the album, and I've still got one.
Some of those.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Where were some of those early recordings done?
Well, we was one of the very first gospel groups to record at Fame in Muscle Shoals.
Really?
And I can remember going in that studio, yeah. Now, we did 5 or 6 live albums.
Yes.
We did one where Bill Mayberry in the 70s. We did one there. I don't know if you was on there.
No, y'all did that album just before
Okay.
I joined the group.
Okay.
And I never was on a recording because y'all had just finished that one, and it was new when I came on board.
Yeah.
So I never was on any recordings.
So we did a live recording there
Yeah.
at Bill's Church,
At Bill's
because that
Church.
was a great church to sing, man, back in those days.
Yeah, I remember that album because of course, we had them for people to purchase if they wanted them and all that kind of stuff. So
Well, down here in the Krause building, that album cover is hanging on the wall. It's a red cover and it's got the Kellys live.
Yep, I
on
remember it.
And it's hanging there on the wall.
I remember. You know what else I just thought of and is connect to the radio station here? Your mama had the Ruth Kelly Gospel 30 on Sunday mornings. And that was my first exposure to the radio because she would ask me to come in for her sometimes when she couldn't come.
Ain't that something?
And so I would come in and do her Ruth Kelly Gospel 30 when she couldn't come. And that was during my time with you guys. So anyway, that was just fun.
Yeah.
Just fun stuff.
Yeah, we've got to do a lot of things over the years. PTL, when PTL was at the top. We did those. We had it on the radio, our own TV program in Muscle Shoals on cable. We'd go down there and tape on Friday nights at midnight till 7 or 8 o'clock the next morning. We'd go down and do 4 or 5. I remember Wayne Lewis. Remember Wayne Lewis?
Yeah.
Wayne Lewis was in the group, man, during those times. And I still keep up with Wayne a little bit. He lives in Clarksville. And, we've had a lot of great people through our group. Jamie Graves. One of my favorite stories about Jamie Graves, he plays over in Myrtle Beach at one of the biggest theaters over there now. But, he played with the Kingdom Heirs.
Yeah.
I think he played on Dolly's, one of Dolly's albums. And I keep up with Jamie, and we talk some. But we've had some great players, Terry Springer that went on and did
Terry.
full-time stuff. Terry Springer sung with a big-name gospel group called Airline.
Yeah.
And, man, he had some wonderful songs. And James Gordon played with us.
I was going to say, we got to mention James
Yeah.
Gordon. James Gordon was with me last week, of course. And he's had his own music career.
Oh, yeah.
But he's also a recording man.
He's did all our stuff for years and years and years. Bless you.
He was very excited to know that you were coming. And, of course, you guys, he's helped you guys record many, many songs.
Yes, sir.
And help produce the Christmas shows.
Yep.
That kind of thing. By the way, speaking of that, is that on the plate coming sometime soon?
Well, here's the thing. The city, the people that put on all the series there, the Crockett Theater series thing, they're not doing it this year, so I am going to do it at my church, and I'm trying to get the word out now. December the 8th at 7 o'clock, Faith Church, which is right out behind Crystal.
Yeah.
We're going to do it there this year, and so we're excited about that. And so make your plans to be there December 8th, 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6 for our Christmas concert.
Okay.
Because we did it last year on the square.
Yeah.
It was 30-something degrees. But, we had close to 100 people that sat out there at 30 degrees.
Yeah.
And so So this year, I told the guys we're not going to do it down on the square because I really was hoping it'd be like in the 40s, low 50s, but it was in the 30s. But we had people come.
It's a little unpredictable.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to know what might happen in our neck of the
Yeah.
woods as far as weather goes that time of year.
Because I have so many people every year say, "Are you going to do that?" Because that Christmas thing has really blew up for us.
Yeah,
and
that's been the Christmas album that you guys did. And it's probably been one of the biggest ones, has it?
Oh, yeah, it's sold more CDs in 6 months than any other CD we recorded. Like 2024, I have one Sunday night open that I can book. It's already all booked for Christmas stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. You got a good group and you got a good past and history and just a good legacy that you've maintained, buddy. You're to be commended to keep it going. You got a family that started something and you've maintained it, and having a group to stay together that long like you have has been a pretty good accomplishment anyway. It says a lot. It says a lot.
We've been blessed.
We've been blessed.
That's right.
Well, listen, the phone number here is 766-9393 if you want to talk to John. And again, the Kellys, there's now name the Kelly group as they are now. You got how many? You got 4 guys.
4 guys. Keith Wortham is from Murfreesboro. He's been here since he was 15, so he's been here 19 years.
Yeah.
Eric Harvey is 46. He's originally from Alabama, but when he joined the group, he moved to Tennessee. So he lives in Mount Pleasant, and then Paul lives right here in Lawrenceburg.
Right. So how did practice? Of course, you guys are booked enough now and sing enough together. You may not have to practice quite as often as you used to.
I'm telling you, that's all we did.
But you used to have to practice all the time. So when and how did you do that, especially with people that might not have been right here?
Well, with the technology now, so what I do is, because sometimes, Keith, I need to be off, or Paul has to be off. Like last weekend, Paul's brother passed away, and he had to miss. So I've got a guy now that travels with us that I've used for years. I met him 40 years ago, and I always wanted him to be a part of our group. So he joined our group like 5 months ago. He does all the driving, which has took a lot off of me. Like next week, we're in Greenbrier, Arkansas, Saturday night. We're in Mississippi Sunday morning, then back to Tennessee Sunday night. And it's 7 hours from Saturday night to Sunday morning. So used to, I had to do all that driving.
Yeah.
I let Paul drive some, but I just felt like, when them boys go to sleep, it's my responsibility to be sure, So I did all the driving. But this guy here, Ray Henson, can sing. He's a great tenor singer. He can sing the baritone. So he knew our songs, so I just got him to fill in last week. And so that's been a great asset. And he's been with us 5 months now. In the 90s, he sung full-time with a group called In Harmony that had a bunch of songs on the charts back then.
Yeah.
But great guy, and so I've known him for 40 years. So.
I know it'd be totally impossible probably to pick out your best memory or your greatest memory of over the years because there's been so many of them. But what sticks out with you as far as being at a time or a place that you just think about a lot or something?
One of my favorite stories of all time, and just like now, my bus is in the shop now.
Yeah.
And, and buses, anytime anything's tore up, it's $1,000. You're going to look at $1,000 no matter what.
Right.
But back in the 80s, there was a guy in his mind, his name has just left me. He owned the Ford dealership in Franklin, and now his sons own a lot. And I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name right off. But this was the most amazing story to me that's happened over the years that I remember. So we had come from Pigeon Forge. We'd been over the mountain in Bryson City and sung over there, and we blew the engine on the bus.
Oh my!
So we had the engine out of the bus. Me and Daddy and Jim and a mechanic from up at Murray had the engine out. We had it outside the bus, and we was working on it. And so the phone rang, and it was this guy that owned the Ford dealership in Franklin. Maybe it'll come to me in a minute. And so he had got saved at one of our singings.
Oh, wow.
So he would always, if we were in Franklin, come. And he said, "What are you guys doing?" And Jim said, "Well, we blew our engine on the bus." And he said, "We're going, we're tearing it apart, so we got to get it fixed." And he said, "Okay, so you guys going to be there a while?" And Jim said, "Yeah, we're going to be here a while." So in about an hour, he called back and he said, "Hey, I've got a truck coming down there to pick up that engine." Said, "We're going to get it checked out for you." Jim said, no, you can't do that. Said, we're good. We'll get it. And so in about an hour and a half, this brand new Ford pickup pulls up there at the house. And Jim said, we can't load all these oily, dirty parts in the back of that new truck. And that guy said, R.C. Alexander. I knew you'd come to me. Yeah. R.C. Because, you got Alexander Toyota.
Yeah.
That's all his family.
Yeah.
His boys.
Yeah.
So the guy said, R.C. said, pick up this motor. And that's what I come to do. So we put boxes down, to try to keep the oil and stuff out of the back of that new truck. And so the engine left, and we was all just standing around. So in about a week, R.C. called. And he said, hey, fella, said, we got bad problems on your engine. Ain't got good news. He said, your block's busted. So Daddy said, okay, that'd be fine. Said, we'll come up there and pick up the engine, and said, we'll start looking for one. So, well, about 2 days, R.C. called. He said, hey, he said, I've got you a new engine coming for your bus. And Daddy said, well, you can't do that. He said, yeah, I can. He said, yeah, I can. And Daddy said, that's a lot of money. He said, I didn't do this. He said, the good Lord did this. I'm going to cry. So he said, I'll have the engine down there, but I want you guys to come up here to my office, and I'm going to show you what God did.
Oh, wow.
So we went up that week, and he said, I just want to show you. He said, I didn't do this. God did. So he opened up his books, and I don't remember exactly the numbers, but I remember that week, Monday through Friday, he'd sold 1 or 2 cars all day long.
Yeah.
He said, on Saturday morning, I come in, and this is how the Kellys have kept going. He said, I knelt down in the corner, and I said, Lord, me and the Kellys need some help. And he said, I didn't do this. The good Lord did. And he opened up the book. He sold 15 brand new cars and trucks that one day.
Golly dang.
So he said, I didn't do this. The good Lord did. So, we've had tires put on, and people have donated over the years to keep us going. And so that's one of my big stories.
That's awesome.
Of what God has done for us to let us keep going.
It's blessed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Including me. It was an influence in my life. And I've told this story many, many times. Teresa and I began to date when I was with you guys.
Yeah.
My life was turning. My life was making a turn at that point.
Amen.
And you guys were a part of it. And of course, Teresa coming along in my life was even a bigger turn. And you guys were a part of that. They loved on me. Your mom and dad loved on me. JP did. Knew I was just an ignorant teenager, and took me under their wing at a time when it was when I could have gone a lot of directions. And y'all made a big difference in my life. Well,
that's one thing about my daddy. He encouraged young people.
Yeah.
I mean, he did. He loved on young people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell this before we have to go. What my favorite memories of your dad is when the Spirit would come down on him singing. And I was singing beside him. I never will forget this. He used to sing, "What a Day our first day would be."
Yeah.
And I can still see him. He would bend over, and that head would shake just a little bit, and it would. And one particular night when he sang that, it just came all over him and me. It was awesome.
Amen.
Amen.
Praise the Lord. God's good. Bless you, brother. Bless you. Man, I just do so many stories. I could sit here for hours.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about what God's done to bless our ministry. Let's keep going today. Like we saw 5 people saved in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
We talk about it every year. If we can see one, it's worth every mile.
That's right. That's right. Woo, you're a good man.
I love you, man. Thank you for having me today.
Listen, we got about a minute left, and I want you to tell what CDs you've got.
Yeah, I got 4 for you to give away here called Room on the Rock. Our latest single, which is I'm Going to Tell It All the Way Home, has hit a couple of charts. Yeah. And so I want you to give these 4 away, ever how you want to. And
we probably won't have time for this show, but I'll keep them here if you don't mind through the morning shows. And we'll make it a part of what we do here.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We can do that.
Yep. Hey, don't forget our Christmas concert.
December
8th, Faith Church, 7 o'clock.
I'm glad you guys are doing that. Yep. That's going to be great.
Yep.
That's going to be great. We're going to try to make that. December
8th on Friday night.
On a Friday night. That'll put you in the Christmas mode.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, God bless. Tell all your family, Johnny, all of them that we love them. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you guys. And Miss Benny Paul,
Yeah.
Send word to her.
I will.
I saw her not too long ago and did a little business with her and for her. So we appreciate you all. God
Love you,
bless,
man.
buddy.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man.
Prospect Communications.
We keep hearing horror stories.